Welcome to the Sirius report. This is Paul, and today we're going to discuss China-Russia AI collaboration, which threatens to undermine the United States, who considered itself to be the dominant player in areas such as AI. But Moscow and Beijing are continuing to develop these collaborations in many new technology sectors, which of course weakens this whole idea of US dominance. And this, of course, ties in to some extent with the developments we saw recently with DeepSeek and AI. Now, it's worth starting with the following. A couple of months ago or so, Putin came out, and ordered his government and the Russian bank Sberbank to work with China on artificial intelligence. What he wanted them to do was to ensure further cooperation with China in conducting technological research and also developments in the field of AI. So several orders were signed to strengthen developments in the field of AI, including AI integrated technologies into government systems to improve AI education and also AI international forums. The partnership between China and Russia, very tellingly, is to focus on sectors such as finance, manufacturing, transportation, and the thorny subject of quantum computing, which many people think is some futuristic technology, which it isn't. And it'll be here a lot sooner than conventional wisdom would suggest. And frankly, it is going to be highly disruptive, to put it diplomatically. Now, for Russia, of course, if you look technologically, a lot of their goods have been heavily impacted by Western sanctions. Okay, by and large, they've managed to get around that through import substitution. But of course, it did include semiconductor chips. And it's worth recalling nearly 2 years ago that Sberbank came out and said, just as one example, graphic cards for AI and supercomputers were hardest to substitute because, of course, the United States restricted sales of advanced chips to Russia since the onset of the Ukraine war, and also tightened restrictions on third-party chip exports to Russia in 2024. Now, it's very telling because you would imagine on the basis of that Russia was some way behind China and the United States in many aspects of the development of AI. Recently, Russia said they were probably around 6 months behind both countries, which is why, of course, this collaboration with the Chinese is hugely beneficial. And Russia has a different focus where they want to develop LLMs, which are the large language models, rather than building enormous data centers. Of course, a potential Russia-China partnership in whatever guise that is in AI is going to cause concerns for the United States beyond the fact that they can get around sanctioning issues. Now, if you go back roughly a month ago, the Russians came out and stated that with respect to Sberbank's plans, there was going to be this joint AI research with China after, obviously, the announcement by DeepSeek. Now, this partnership has been dubbed Boundless, and it is a strategic collaboration between Russia and China artificial intelligence research teams. And on the back of Putin's pronouncement, Sberbank has been working on a project to develop an AI model that is perceived and will be significantly cheaper than its American counterparts. But guess what? It's going to use open source technology from DeepSeek. So here's one example where this obviously is something where DeepSeek will have an incredible, profound implications because it's open source and can be utilized all over the world, including Russia. It's also worth noting in the realms of military cooperation, around the same time, Beijing announced, and Russia, that they were having consultations on the military use of AI technologies. This was in an interagency format that took place. So they made assessments on where they were currently. They discussed what their perspectives were and initiatives related, as I said, to the use of AI for military purposes. Now, there was particular attention at this time given to the coordination of actions within the group of governmental experts of the state parties to what is termed the Convention on Certain Conventional Weapons on Lethal Autonomous Weapon Systems. That's one heck of a mouthful, but what it confirmed this meeting is the proximity of Russia and China's approaches to that issue. There was a need for further close coordination in a bilateral format, meaning, of course, between China and Russia, but also at multilateral platforms, particularly within the context of these conventional weapons on lethal autonomous weapon systems. So this is bound to cause consternation and concern in the United States that, again, it's another example where there is clearly a China-Russia alliance. This relates to weapons, to military technology. They share the technology very readily, and that is only going to continue into the future. And where the United States might have thought they had a lead in with respect to military AI technology, that, of course, is proving to absolutely not be the case. And in another problem for the United States with regards to sanctioning both Russia and China and with regards to chip manufacturing, it's worth noting that scientists from Russia and China have developed this breakthrough algorithm which uses information from reverse engineering, so-called video card accelerators, which allows gaming GPUs to be used for scientific computing. Now, that innovation was achieved by specialists from Shenzhen University, Lomonosov Moscow State University, and Beijing Institute of Technology. Now, this is very important for the following reasons. Russia and China can reduce their reliance on NVIDIA GPUs, which is going to impact the capability of US sanctions. It also means that Russia and China would therefore need to buy less NVIDIA GPUs. And this ongoing research is also going to include new machine learning algorithms and a next generation GPU that's being currently developed in Russia. Now, how that compares to NVIDIA is difficult to say at this point in time, so you can't speculate one way or the other. But what this highlights is, and it's something that's completely baffling the West, is it highlights that Russia does have technological expertise. It allows for collaboration with China, and there is even mutterings about future partnerships with India in this regard. So Russia and China collaboratively are working very hard together in many sectors, including AI. And I also think it's worth mentioning the following with regards to China and AI, because we've just mentioned Shenzhen, and the city of Shenzhen wants to become a global leader in robotics within 2 years. It's implemented a whole range of policies to what it wants and thinks can help it become a city at the forefront of global AI and robotics industries. And it wants to affirm itself as China's leading technology hub, because in traditional tech, that has been the case for quite some time. But this will be an affirmation as China makes massive strides in many industrial sectors all over China. What was interesting is the city itself, Shenzhen, rolled out major action plans, multiple ones in a single day recently. That wants to accelerate the adoption of AI, and it wants to enhance computing capacity to support local AI businesses and establish a global lead in robotics. Now, this push comes as other Chinese cities want to also be centers of innovation. There's the eastern city of Hangzhou, which has obviously attracted a lot of interest because of the success of the local AI startup company, of course, DeepSeek, and the humanoid robotic maker Unitree. Now, I know a lot of people will have reservations about all this technology, will have concerns about it, but whatever we think about it, it's coming. The technology is not going to be inhibited. There are serious concerns in the longer term about AI, but not at this point in time. But this is an example where China itself is competing domestically within cities to get ahead of what it's not sees as rivals, but competitors in a domestic sense. And it's worth talking because obviously we've just talked about Unitree, which is a Chinese startup, is looking at wider commercial demand for robots and advancements in AI as well. Now, that aims to have a breakthrough in humanoid robotic capabilities within 12 to 18 months. Again, this is something that would concern people, but it relates to their task execution capabilities, advanced perception and comprehension. And this is going to therefore lead to commercial uses for humanoid robots within a period of 3 to 5 years, roughly. But what this has certainly done is hugely accelerated efforts to create these robots within the last couple of years. And there is, of course, increasing interest in both other foreign and domestic players, without any shadow of a doubt, amid recent advances in AI models. So obviously, one of the first policies of Shenzhen's growing AI industry is they're going to look at a field that obviously includes AI-driven devices, from smartphones all the way to industrial applications. And China will throw enormous sums of money at this. I'm not saying just throwing money at it for the sake of it. That will lead to AI terminal businesses and rapidly expand them outwards. And who would bet against Shenzhen achieving its objectives to be a global leader in robotics by 2027? I wouldn't bet against it. I'm not saying it will happen necessarily, but China is showing very aggressive intent in doing so. And the other thing that's interesting with regards to China is their own chipsets, because they want to encourage the use of open source RISC-V chips nationwide. That's an open source technology that is used to design a range of what might be termed less sophisticated chips, from those in smartphones to CPUs for artificial intelligence servers. So in China, the state entities and research institutions have been basically implementing the usage of these RISC-Vs. And Chinese chip designers are interested in this because they have much lower costs. And Beijing, of course, is accelerating these efforts. So again, China is far less dependent on Western-owned technologies. There's 8 government bodies involved in this. And if you go back about 2 years ago, the Biden administration tried to restrict American companies from working on technology over concerns that Beijing was exploiting the open source nature, why shouldn't it, to advance its own semiconductor industry. Now, China's largest for-profit RISC-V intellectual property providers includes Alibaba. What's also added to this adoption of the RISC-V is DeepSeek. And because China's AI startup models run efficiently on these less powerful chips, so smaller companies that want to use AI and DeepSeek could therefore use these chips designed with this RISC-V architecture. Now, the question that's very interesting in this is when you look at the price of this RISC-V and how it might compare to its alternatives in performance levels of, say, NVIDIA, it's so well priced that you could buy multiple sets of this solution, and the overall cost would still be lower, but it would actually reach the performance level of the likes of NVIDIA, or maybe for that matter, even Huawei. So this is a point where it's potentially feasible to use so-called less sophisticated chip technology, which would achieve the same objectives as its more powerful rivals or competitors like NVIDIA. And that is a huge point, turning point in these kind of developments. Again, China has been very smart in what it's doing, and adapting the old analogy that necessity is indeed the mother of invention. We've talked about this many times, and we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that China is becoming very innovative, as well as developing more advanced technologies. It is working across the board with respect to the more sophisticated chip technology and the less sophisticated chip technology. So the race continues to be in what you might term a dominant technology player. And the United States can puff its chest out and make all brash pronouncements. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words, and China continues to take the necessary steps to become a major player in these fields, and then bypass the risk that the United States is trying to decapitate it in terms of having the technological capability because of its previous dependence on US technologies. And with that, we end this podcast. Thank you for all your ongoing support, which is greatly appreciated. Please like, share, and subscribe the content. Help us spread the word. We'd very much appreciate your help in that regard. And with that, I'll say goodbye.